House Frey is important. What you saw in this show is the fattest lie ever. Failed in adaptation? More like neutered by adaptation. And this is just the first wife. And we get to the second wife, Karina Swan, who, thank goodnessly, only had 2 kids. Both of them sons. Sir Jared Frey, who married Alice Frey, the line from Adam Frey. And there they have Titos. Gee, I wonder who they were trying to placate. With Zone Blanchry. And together they got Zia and Zachary. And they had a daughter, Kyra, who married Garth Goodbrook. And they had Walder and Jane. Oh my gosh. And Karina Swan's second son so happened to be Lucian, who was actually a septon of the 7-pointed star. Well, let's just say there's a lot more to him than we all know. To then the third wife. And bear with me, people, this is where things are going to get horrible. Looks like Walder Frey was very busy with her. The oldest of her line is Hostine, Balina Haywood, and together they had Arnwood, 1 child. Oh my gosh, a miracle, who married Riella Royce. And together they had another Riella, and the twins Ardward and Alan, and Hostilla. Then we get to the second child, who is a daughter, Leanth, hopefully I'm saying your name right, who married Lord Lucas Viprin. Together, they had the daughter Elena, who married John Wilde, who had Rickard. And then their second son is Damon. And now we go to the third Craig-Hall, Simon, who married Betharos of Bravos. And they had 3 kids, Alessander, Alex, and Brideman. And the fourth Craig-Hall Frey is Danwell, who married Winifred Went. And miracle of miracles, people, there is no children. And after them, we get Merritt, the man who pointed out the shenanigans of Black Walder. And Merritt married Mariah Derry. And together they had Amory, who married Pate of the Blue Fork, who died, and she later married Lancel Lannister, who then ditches her for the church. And after her, we get her younger sister, Fat Walda. My gosh, these families are cruel. And she ended up married Roose Bolton. Wait, Roose Bolton, father of Ramsay Bolton. The third child is Marissa. And we get Little Walder after all of that. Oh, great, another one. We get to the next Craig-Hall Frey, who is Jeremy, who married Carolee Wainwood. And together they had Sandor and Cynthia. And this is the second Wainwood we've seen. And also, before them, Mariah Derry. That's the secondary marriage we see here. We may see that this family does marry twice into other families. After all, Stavron's first wife was a swan, and Lord Walder Frey's second wife was a swan. Now we get to the last Craig-Hall Frey, Raymond, who married Bethany of Beesbury. And together, oh my gosh, they had Robert, Malwyn, twins, Sarah and Sarah, and after her, Cersei, Little B, and the newborn Jamie and Tywin twins. Oh my gosh, I wonder who this family was rooting for. And then Craig-Hall. Now we're done with the Craig-Halls, and now we're into the Blackwoods. The fourth wife. And they were just as fruitful. And the oldest of this line is Lame Lothar. Okay, this family does not give anyone a break. So this is a son born with a messed up foot. IW lame. Oh, come on, Dad. Can I do something more? Shut up, son, and do what you are worth. Okay, I will do you my worth. And he married Leonella of Lefford. And together they had Tysane, Walda, again original, Emberly, and baby Lyanna. Yay. And the second child is Jamos, who married Sally Page. Together they had Big Walder and the twins Dickon and Mathis. The third child of this union was Wayland, who married Sawala Page. Jameis and Wayland seem to be into the Pages, I guess. Through him we get Hoster and Marianne. No Walder there. Wow, these guys were not crying to daddy, thank goodness. And we get to the first daughter of this union, Moira, good name, who married Sir Flement Brax. I pay attention to this line, really. Who has Robert Walder, yay, and John. And after Moira, we get Tita the maid, and we are done with the Blackwoods. And we get the fifth Lady Frey, who is Shira Went, and no one. Absolutely no one. Woohoo! Pause. Think about this, though. Went. Both Wents in this family never had a child. Before the book series, the Wents were in charge of Harrenhal. And Harrenhal is considered a cursed place. And in the world of the medieval age, if you can't bear a child, are you considered of worth? So maybe that's not a good sign for the Went family. Dang, George, you make us think here. But we get to the sixth, and we're getting close to the end of this marathon. Bethany Rosby. And her oldest is Perwyn Frey. Ben Frey, who married Jenna Frey, so another of Lord Adam's line. And together they had Deaf Della. Oh my gosh, this family. And Osmond. And we get to the third of this line, Maester Williman. Someone had decided to go for an education. The fourth is Oliver Frey. And the youngest of all these is Rosalind, who we all know is famous because of the Red Wedding. It was her marriage to Lord Edmure Tully. And in the books, right now, she is pregnant. And now we get to 7. And through Ariana Faring, they're busy, but we're almost done, people. And their first child is Arwen Frey. Second, Wendell. Third, Colmar. Fourth, Walter Tyr. Fifth, Elmar. And to the only daughter here of Cherie. Like all the others, she died. And now we're to the current wife. This is a 16-year-old married to a 94-year-old man and is pregnant. Wow, George. Wow. And once we think we're done, we're not technically done. Because we have to get to the bastards. And if there's anything we have learned, Walder Frey really enjoys life. And the first of all these bastards is Walder Rivers. And through him, we do not know his wife. But they had 2 kids, Eamon, whose marriage we do not know. And their second child is Walda. And then after this bastard, we get to the second bastard, who is Maester Milius. And we get to the third bastard, Jane Rivers. The fourth bastard, Martin Rivers. The next bastard, Riger Rivers. The bastard after that bastard, Ronald Rivers. And the next gosh darn bastard is Marilla Rivers. And there's also other bastards. Oh my gosh. This is so close to the movie line from Spaceballs.
Yo! I knew it. I'm surrounded.
You may think we're done about this family tree, but we're not. George Martin is actually playing a mystery here. You think the Starks are alone with having mystery kids? No, they're not. House Frey has mystery children for us, the reader. But sadly, no one has ever cared. But we here care. And by George, this is going to get nuts, people. For Theo Frey, when the Hands tournament is happening, Sansa and her best friend Jane are pulling a Charles Barkley and Shaquille O'Neal commentary on the tournament. As they're talking about all these knights, and oh my gosh, there is a ton of them. But for the bear witness, we want to keep this as easy as I can. We'll go to this on page 294. The twins, Sir Horace and Hobber, whose shields were displayed with a great cluster sigil of the red wines, burgundy on blue. Patrick Mallister, Lord Jason's son. 6 Freys of the Crossing. Sir Jared, Sir Hostine, Sir Danwell, Sir Emmon, Sir Theo, Sir Perwyn, sons and grandsons of old Walder Frey, and his bastard son, Martin Rivers, as well. Now you could just say, well, Sir Theo is just a forgotten name, because George has shown he kind of forgets some characters and lets some things drop. But if you just can go to this page right here and really go through all of these names, each and every one of these names I have done my best to follow through the entire story of A Song of Ice and Fire. In 5 books, I've done my best to follow everyone that has been in this tournament. And each and every one of these people does something that is important to the story. Most of them, like I'd say 80%, affect the story. And some of them are Freys. And I can't help but go. So through all of this, Sir Theo is the only one on this page who doesn't have any prominence. You could say I may be pushing myself. This is nothing. Look, you know what? I can do a video on Theo and trying to find who he is. In Clash of Kings, we get a very, very interesting exchange. And there's something very important in this because it's between Jared Frey, Harry's Haig, Hostine, and Aenys Frey. And all these guys are talking to Roose Bolton. Oh my gosh, what a conversation, and trying to follow. But there's a very unique exchange here, and also something very important. Harry's Haig is in this chapter. Harry's Haig is in this exchange. Harry's Haig, who was a Frey on his mother's side, nodded vigorously. If Lord Tywin could defeat this seasoned man like Stannis Baratheon, what chance will our boy King have against him? Why I point that out about Harry's Haig? Because if you look at the appendix in Clash of Kings and Storm of Swords, and you look up who's in the King of the North, he doesn't exist. In both books. He doesn't exist in the appendix, but we have his exchange in here. And this exchange here actually gives us a map in Storm of Swords, where we can find out which phrase in an exchange when they have Jaime in front of their feet, which Frey is talking when they don't mention who was talking. George is playing a crazy game here. Characters who don't exist in the appendix dealing with Freys are actually in the story. Heck, in Storm of Swords, during the Red Wedding, we get this small bit where Walder Frey's pointing out, you have to apologize to them, to my daughters. On 677, the girl could have been no more than 4. I am Sir Aemon Rivers Walda, Lord Great-Grandfather, she curtsied. How long have you been talking? Not that you're like to have anything sensible to say. Your father never did. He's a bastard son. Besides, hey, go away. I wanted only Freys up here. Wait a minute. That's Aemon's? Bastard Aemon's daughter? But she doesn't exist in the appendix at all. I didn't mention her ever existing in this. But this book points us out exactly where she is and where she points out under Aemon. George is playing a bigger game. With this family tree, we can see that characters in the appendix that don't exist do exist. All these Freys, all that we see here, this is nuts. And George is playing something more, because we see something very interesting. There's too many Walders and Waldas. But in the books, they say something very interesting. 2 times they point out Hodor's name. It's Walder. Hodor and Nan. And you know what? This video is too long. We'll get to this later, because this is just complicated. I mean, look at this. How long have I been talking? This is freaking nuts, people. Absolutely nuts. We have stepped on a landmine, but we are standing on it and proudly saying this landmine may blow up, but guess what? George is showing us proof that there's more to House Frey than we know. There are mysteries here. Characters who don't exist in the appendix exist in the story. Why do you do this, George? I think there's something more going on here. What is it that you are playing? We are not done. Far from it. Our eyes on you, George. Until next time, this is the Bullfrog and the Newt signing out. Oh my gosh, this may be an ultra long one. Lionel, gosh dang it, these names.